Splatoon 3 has evolved the series UI to now have the greatest out of the three games, and not just in terms of readability and function, but having UI that's inspired. Splatoon 3 is a unique example of a modern Nintendo game with personality and charm in its menus and text and prompt boxes, as long-standing series have abandoned this in favor for more simple UI design. The shops, the lobby, the Dungeon Dice Monsters minigame, all of these take in that signature cartoonish look the series is known for and doesn't break you away from the game world. When I pause in Splatoon, this still feels like Splatoon. The UI really sells the player on the world you're in even when you do pause. When I pause in Mario Odyssey, go play Doodle Jump for 30 minutes and come back? Play Mario Odyssey? Mario Odyssey has so much to take inspiration from with its captures, its locations, its different citizens. It's a fantastic game, but instead of using any of that, you get a little Cappy Hat that's excited for lunchtime. SNES games were able to express a game's personality in 2D sprite work, and the N64 was able to put charm into its UI as well with new 3D capabilities. But the GameCube is when the increase in power allowed developers to really experiment and put a lot of pizzazz into their game's UI. When you turn on Mario, the game immediately gave you a fireworks show of colors and unique fonts and ideas that even if you didn't know Mario, you didn't know Mushroom, and you didn't know Goomba, you definitely still mash that green button. The UI is really inviting, and it's like the back of a book since it lets you know what kind of game you're about to play. There are some good UI elements in other modern Nintendo games as well. Zelda uses its Sheikah Slate in some menus, which is cool, and Mario Odyssey uses a brochure for its map, which is pretty unique, but these are few and far apart. And to really show how important UI is, with no Mario font used anywhere and no Mario memorabilia, for a major Mario collection celebration, this barely feels like Mario. And the worst part about this collection is I don't play Mario Galaxy, I play Fruit Ninja in bed. Now Kirby's Dream Collection, this feels like a real anniversary celebration, and what solely separates this game from that is the creativity and theming. Dream Collection goes for this gallery view that's in 3D and lets you control Kirby running up and down to each part of Kirby's history. And you select a game by sucking it up, and it gives you this nice little detailed history about the game, and if it's a part of the collection, you can play it right from there. This feels like an entirely new game, while this is technically a new game. Splatoon's UI has a good bit of history to get to where it is today in Splatoon 3, and there's a great and awesome video that goes into more detail about it, which I'll put in a pinned comment. The history of Splatoon starts with Mariko Tachibana, who worked on the game's UI and typeface and originally wanted things to be more simple. But lead artiste director Seitai Inoue knew what made kids mash the green button and said get rid of that and get me something more like this. The way that she created this stylized font in UI was that her and other designers compared with different Nintendo games, with Mario being the biggest one. And if Mario's not going to use his font, then Tachibana will. And using this inspiration, they were able to create and shape how the game's UI would turn out. Each one of the games in the series have continued to implement new UI, with a new font being created and a new loading and saving icon as well, with the later games taking inspiration from being sequels in their saving icons. And now you ask the question, what goes in that last spot for Splatoon 3? And I reply, nothing goes in that last little spot because it gets its own special presentation. This little guy this little beautiful little guy, is where the series UI has evolved to, and when watching trailers or playing the demo, this is what I was most excited about. This one little UI design you see for a second throughout playing. Splatoon 3 really pushes its UI forward in a way that I think fully realizes its uniqueness, in some areas. The new loading icon is already enough to make me happy, but they've also updated the main prompt boxes, giving them more fluidity, and also have added a great UI choice I wouldn't have ever expected to enjoy so much: the use of tape. It was seen in trailers and on the website, and I expected it to only be used in the shop since that's all that was shown at the time, but I looked through each menu and found that it shows up a good amount. The tape is also the new As Seen Everywhere UI choice and is the replacement to Splatoon 2's window shopping whenever you go someplace in the game. The tape is the same general shape as a regular text box, but gives a lot more depth and detail to the gritty style Splatoon 3 is going for, and they even made the little inkling cursor do a little stretchy spin to make it stand out more. They've taken a different direction in the lobby menus, which is inspired by Octo Expansion UI. Which, if you really think about it, is inspired by that one stage in Beyond the End. I know people will enjoy this, and I'm glad since I've already gotten my 60 bones worth in, but I do feel that the icons from Splatoon 2 were heading in the direction that the prompt boxes and loading icon took, with a more fluid look. With Splatoon 3's lobby icons, I can appreciate the animation over 2's static icons, but I think Splatoon's UI is at its peak when it experiments with both fluid animations and fluid effects. Using both of these elements together could make the menuing feel more alive, sort of like a Nickelodeon intro, which would fit the game's theming very nicely. Splatoon 3 is also repeating last game's player icons while waiting for a match, which already felt like a step down from the first game's unique shape with a shiny outline to indicate the player. Instead, now Cappy has a little bouncing lunch buddy. I think a few options could have been used to help improve and distinguish the UI, like using more translucency and fluidity for the icons, like the freshness meter, or something more unique to Splatoon 3 like tape, which could have added to the grittier look of the game. But I am happy they didn't go overboard. Something I was surprised by when I took a closer look at each part of the game's UI was finding out they added more detail into the special icons. Originally, I thought it was an exact one-to-one from the last game's flat and bland icons, but they have instead improved that more uniform, simple art by indenting it for more depth, which made me really excited to find out. You can notice it best with returning specials like the Ultra Stamp. The fill meter around these icons is also updated with a design that reminds me of a car speedometer, which is just a cool look and also a better way to show how much meter is filled to the player. It also has that added depth as well, which is just a nice way to keep things a little more uniform. These changes have overall been very interesting and inspired changes, but there are some parts of the game that have more shallow UI. The game has taken its UI in the right direction with more animations, more unique text boxes, more depth, and more fluid looking prompt boxes, but areas like the new speech boxes have a much more forgettable shape compared to Splatoon 2's energetic design, and weapon icons are now flat, which feels like they've already moved on from with again the special gauge, but they have replaced, sadly, the last of the 3D UI except for a few cases in menuing. It isn't a straight downgrade, I just feel like it could have been more inspired and more unique to Splatoon 3. Though they have added a nice little animation to weapon icons when someone gets splatted, and a juicy little bonus detail that I don't really like but was fun to find is they use a lower detail loading icon when reconnecting from a communication error and when using Amiibo. Now the worst case of simplification is Splatoon 3's NSO app. Splatnet 3 looks super bare bones compared to Splatnet 2, which looks like how a phone OS would look in the game. Splatnet 3 is hardly recognizable as Splatoon, and if I cover the text, what do you see?